There are phases in life when it feels like you're climbing a mountain wrapped in fog. No one beside you, no one cheering, no one watching. You keep moving forward, keep trying, keep honoring the promise you made to yourself. Yet the world around you feels painfully quiet. No one says, "I'm proud of you." No one notices the silent battles you faced. And at times you ask yourself, is this worth it if no one sees it? But it's exactly within that solitude that a different kind of strength begins to take shape, a strength that doesn't rely on praise or approval. Carl Jung once said that every rebirth begins with dissolution. When there's no one left to lean on, it's not the end. It's a signal that your soul is preparing to enter a new stage, where you become your own source of power. In today's video, we will walk through that journey. The 7 steps to rise, even when no one is by your side. It's in the moment you stop waiting for someone to lift you up that you uncover a deep truth. Everything you've ever searched for in the outer world, strength, love, peace, has always existed within you, waiting to be awakened. And when that happens, you don't just rise, you begin to move forward with your own light. Number 1, loneliness. The silent teacher of strength. There are times in life when the world seems to drift away from you. Familiar conversations no longer interest you. People who once walked beside you begin to feel far away. On the surface, everything looks the same. Your work, your relationships. Yet inside, you know something is shifting. No one tells you this is the beginning of growth because most people fear this phase. But for Carl Jung, this is the first sign of the night sea journey, the dark night of the soul. When you no longer resonate with the old world, and to step into the new, you must pass through your deepest shadow, loneliness. The loneliness Jung described is not about being physically alone in an empty space. It's the feeling of being disconnected from everything that once made you feel you belonged. You still smile, still speak, but deep down you sense that what's happening around you no longer reaches your soul. The world seems to speak a language you no longer understand, and you're left with only yourself. Many believe reaching this point means failure. But in reality, it's the moment your soul starts separating from the persona, the mask that once helped you fit in. The thought that no one understands me isn't a sign you've lost your path. It's evidence that you're moving closer to your true self. Jung believed a person truly matures only when they dare to face themselves in solitude. Not when someone listens, but when every external sound fades and you're forced to hear your inner voice. During this stage, many lose direction and escape into work, relationships, or distractions that help them avoid the emptiness. But the more they avoid it, the larger that emptiness becomes. Loneliness doesn't arrive to punish you. It comes to deepen you, to help you rebuild your foundation from within. I once knew a woman who, after her divorce, fell into deep disorientation. She had always been surrounded by friends and laughter. But when everything collapsed, her apartment became unbearably quiet. Instead of filling the void with dates or work, she learned to sit with silence. At first, only for a few minutes, then gradually for hours. She cooked for herself, read, journaled, and faced questions she had always avoided. Months later, she said, "I realize silence is no longer my enemy. It's where I finally hear myself." That was what Jung called the meeting with the self. The moment you stop running and start coming home, when there's no one to depend on, that pressure forces you to develop discipline and inner stability. Like a climber without a safety rope, every step becomes intentional. Every action becomes a promise to yourself. And each promise kept becomes a brick that builds strength. Loneliness doesn't come to weaken you. It comes to make you unshakable. It's the gym of the soul where your essence is forged into steel. Looking back, you'll realize those quiet months were when you were strongest. The image of an oak tree in winter always comes to mind. When every other tree sheds its leaves, the oak stands alone in the cold wind. No flowers, no color. Yet during that winter, its roots are growing deeper, preparing for spring. Humans are the same. Every lonely season is the soul's winter. But if you're patient enough to stay, you'll see that spring is waiting on the other side. Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." If you're standing in the darkness of loneliness, don't be afraid. It's not a sign of weakness. It's proof you're leaving the old path to open a new one. Because the soul that is to be reborn must first dissolve. And only when the world is silent can you hear the inner voice whisper, "It's time to rise." Remember, no one is coming to lift you up. But that isn't bad news, because in that very moment, real strength is born. No one can hand you resilience, but loneliness will teach you how to build it. Every time you survive a long night, you're not just overcoming fear. You're rewriting your story. Number 2. Stop seeking emotional comfort from others. At some point, after learning to stand in solitude, you realize something important. What drains us isn't loneliness. It's expecting someone else to fix it. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that matter most." When you rely on others to make you feel okay, every silence, withdrawal, or unmet response feels like collapse. That isn't love. It's emotional dependency, which Jung saw as the sign of an unintegrated ego. After the stage of the lonely warrior, the next lesson is learning how to soothe yourself. When you stop chasing reassurance and approval from outside, that's when the self begins to lead. I once met a woman in a group therapy session. She admitted she nearly panicked whenever her boyfriend didn't reply to her messages. She checked her phone repeatedly, imagining the worst. "I know it's irrational," she said, "but when he's silent, I feel like I don't exist." After months of therapy, she realized the fear didn't come from him. It came from her childhood. Whenever she was sad, her parents would say, "Don't be dramatic," or they would walk away. Her unconscious learned, "My feelings don't matter." And ever since, she searched for someone to prove otherwise. Jung called this the trap of emotional projection. When we use others as mirrors to define our worth, their responses decide how we feel. When they respond, we feel valuable. When they withdraw, we feel lost. But the truth is, no one can be your savior forever. The more you depend on others for stability, the more you lose the ability to regulate yourself. Self-soothing doesn't mean coldness or emotional distance. It means becoming the one who listens to your own emotions. When sadness arises, instead of rushing to find someone to calm it, you stay. You place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I'm still here." That simple act marks the beginning of emotional independence. A key stage of individuation where you stop merging with the collective and become an autonomous self. A person who knows how to comfort themselves doesn't need constant responses to feel worthy. They don't need instant replies or praise to keep going. They can sit quietly in a cafe, enjoying their coffee alone, feeling complete in that moment. That's not coldness. It's the highest form of freedom. Freedom from the need to be validated. Jung said all forms of dependence are the shadow of love. We call it attachment, but it's often fear of abandonment. The immature ego needs someone to confirm its worth. But when you look closely at that fear, you realize it's not emptiness. It's an invitation. An invitation to become the parent you once needed, but never had. And then you understand that what you believed you needed someone else to provide, you've carried within you all along. In modern psychology, this is called emotional independence. It's not rejecting love or connection. It's refusing to give control of your emotions to anyone else. You still love, still connect, but you don't lose yourself when relationships shift. When someone leaves, you grieve, but you don't collapse. When someone goes silent, you notice it, but you don't lose your worth. Someone with emotional independence doesn't need a rescuer. They can lift themselves up, wipe their own tears, and keep moving forward. And only from that place can they love fully, not out of need, but out of choice. Perhaps this is what Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Because when you stop seeking comfort from others, you begin to recognize your own power. A power that doesn't depend, doesn't borrow, and can't be taken away. From the moment you stop waiting for someone else to make you happy, you begin to mature. And if you're in that stage now, where no one understands, no one comforts, and no one lifts you up, remember this. No one coming doesn't mean you're alone. It simply means it's time to stand on your own feet. Whisper to yourself, "I don't need anyone to save me. I just need to not abandon myself." That's the second step. And the turning point to rising, even when no one is there. And if you're in that stage now, learning to stand alone without understanding or comfort, see it as a sign that your soul is maturing. Let me know you're still here by leaving one word in the comments, "still," as a signal that even when no one stands beside you, you choose to stand with yourself. Stop complaining. The language of the victim ego. Number 3, stop complaining. The language of the victim ego. After you've learned to stand strong in solitude and soothe yourself, another subtle but demanding challenge appears. Stop complaining. Complaining is how the ego keeps you tied to your comfort zone, the place where you get to see yourself as the victim. It convinces you that you have a reason not to change. But here's the irony. Every time you complain, you reinforce the belief that you are powerless, unconsciously sending the message, "I have no strength." Carl Jung called this the shadow of self-pity. When you're trapped there, you stop acting and start repeating the same question, "Why me?" As if the universe is unfair, as if the world owes you an explanation. But the real question isn't "why me?" It's "what can I do with this?" The moment you change that question, the energy locked inside complaint begins to move again. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Every time you complain, your unconscious takes control, placing you in the role of a victim of circumstances. But when you look beneath the emotion driving the complaint, you step out of that shadow and return to directing your own awareness. Complaining is a subtle habit of the mind. It creates the feeling of action, yet in reality, nothing moves forward. Each complaint delays action. When your focus stays on blaming situations, you lose the energy needed to change them. Others may cause pain, but only you decide whether that pain becomes a burden or a lesson. Think of a stone at the bottom of a river. The current is strong. It grinds, crashes, and pushes the stone along. Over time, what once seemed destructive slowly polishes the stone until it becomes smooth and bright. Life works the same way. It doesn't stop because you complain. It keeps flowing, testing, shaping you. But when you endure the flow instead of fighting it, you become stronger, clearer, and more refined than before. Complaining feeds the victim ego, the part of you that wants someone else to carry responsibility for your pain. That ego enjoys feeling wronged, because as long as you remain a victim, you avoid responsibility. But this is also the surest way to stay stuck. Each time you stop complaining and take action, even a small one, you reclaim energy lost to the unconscious. You rise not because someone lifts you, but because you choose not to remain in darkness. Complaints often begin with small phrases. "I'm so tired. No one understands me. I try so hard, but no one notices." These words seem harmless, yet they quietly strengthen an ego that believes happiness depends on others. Truly strong people don't need the world to comfort them. They face their pain directly, acknowledge it, and ask, "What can I do now?" A viewer once shared that after her friends betrayed her, she spent 6 months consumed by bitterness. "I told anyone who would listen how terrible they were," she said. "But I realized I had been repeating the same story for half a year." One night she wrote in her journal, "If no one were here to hear me complain, would I still tell this story?" The answer was no. The next day, she began writing about what she wanted to learn, change, and create. It wasn't them leaving that hurt me, she said. It was that I held onto the story for too long. Stopping complaints doesn't mean denying pain. It means choosing not to live inside it. You can still feel sadness, disappointment, and grief. But instead of repeating the wound, you use that energy to build something new. Each action, no matter how small, sends a clear message to the universe. I am no longer a victim of this. Carl Jung once said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. That choice to stop complaining and begin acting is the doorway to a higher level of strength. Every time you stop asking why me and start asking what can I do with this, you move forward. That is how you rise even when no one is there. Not through pity, but through the quiet strength of taking responsibility for your own growth. And then you realize you were never truly alone. You were simply too busy complaining to hear your own soul calling. Number 4. Become your own source of validation. After you stop complaining and begin acting, a deeper test appears, the silence of being unseen. You stand up, work hard, and give your best, yet no one praises you. No one acknowledges your effort. This is where most people give up, not because the work is hard, but because they fear being invisible. Yet it's exactly at this stage of no recognition that life tests whether you can continue without attention. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. When you truly validate yourself, you no longer hide behind others' opinions. You don't need compliments, proof, or witnesses to your worth, because you become your own witness. I'm reminded of Cassandra from Greek mythology. Gifted with prophecy but cursed, so no one would believe her. She saw truth clearly, yet others dismissed her. Still, she didn't go silent. She remained faithful to what she knew, even when no one listened. At a deeper level, her story reflects every strong soul that honors its truth in silence. Sometimes being believed matters less than staying true to yourself. In modern life, many give their all and are met with silence. I once spoke with a woman who, after years of dedication, was often the last to leave her office. Yet when recognition came, someone else was praised. I felt invisible, she said. One day, she decided to stop working to be seen and start working to see herself. After each project, she wrote down what she did well and rewarded herself with a quiet afternoon, a coffee, a book. I realized external validation lasts minutes, she said, but self-recognition stays for days. That shift marks the move from the dependent ego to the self, the mature center of awareness. In Jungian psychology, those who live from the self act not for praise, but because it expresses who they are. They don't need an audience to know their value. Their worth doesn't come from applause, but from inner truth. External validation is only a reflection. Those who haven't seen their own light will keep chasing it in others' eyes. But those who've recognized it within carry it wherever they go. They no longer need belief from others because their belief has become their foundation. Jung once said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others. When you face both your weakness and your strength, you no longer need the world to prove anything to you. Self-validation isn't arrogance. It's deep self-respect. It's knowing you're still imperfect, still learning, yet holding yourself fully. Those who validate themselves don't deny flaws. They see them as signs of becoming. Mistakes don't lessen their worth. They make the journey real. Think of how steel is formed. Metal hardens only through fire. The same applies to the soul. Silence, neglect, and lack of recognition are the heat that strengthens your core. When no one validates you, you're forced inward, and there you discover something unexpected. You are far stronger than you believed. When you embrace that, something changes. You begin to shine quietly. Others may say nothing, but they feel your steady presence. Not because you try to impress, but because you no longer need to prove anything. Applause fades. Attention moves on. But your own gaze, when honest and steady, becomes a flame that doesn't go out. That is the secret of those who rise, even when no one stands beside them. Number 5. Rise quickly. Turn failure into fire. Have you noticed that even after becoming stronger and calmer, life still causes you to fall, especially when no one is there to help you up? Failure isn't truly about loss. It's about stumbling on the very path you believed in most. The moments when you think you've mastered yourself, only to be shaken again by something small. You feel weak, ashamed, and tempted to return to old patterns just to be accepted. But as Jung taught, these falls don't come to destroy you. They reveal what remains unhealed, the parts still waiting to be integrated. Every fall brings the shadow back into view. It isn't punishment. It's awareness. It exposes hidden pride, fear of criticism, and hunger for approval. And when you rise again without support, your sense of self expands. In a letter to Freud, Jung wrote that mistakes are the foundation of truth. Failure doesn't weaken you. It makes you real. Only when no one catches you do you learn how to stand on your own strength. I once knew a woman who ran a small business. After years of effort, she was betrayed by her partner and lost nearly everything. For months, she lived in guilt and fear. Then her therapist asked, "If this isn't an ending but a lesson, what is it teaching you?" She paused and said, "Maybe I never trusted my intuition." From that point, she journaled not to complain, but to learn. A year later, she reopened her business, smaller but steadier. "I'm not afraid to fall anymore," she said. "Every fall makes me more honest." That's how failure becomes fuel. Safety doesn't produce growth. When you hit the bottom, false layers burn away, and your soul stands exposed. In failure, awareness is born. You either let it define you or refine you. When you say, "I'm a failure," you remain trapped. When you say, "I'm learning," you open the future. Rock bottom is never the end. It's the ground you push from. Falling doesn't make you weak. Staying down does. When you face your mistake and take one more step, you rewrite your story. One day you'll see every failure carried purpose. It didn't come to break you. It came to reveal who you truly are. Number 6, act without relying on inspiration. Will over emotion. After learning to rise, another lesson appears. Act even when you don't feel ready. Solitude builds strength. Discipline makes it lasting. Jung wrote that will is the energy that reorganizes the psyche. Acting only from inspiration keeps you ruled by comfort. Acting beyond emotion aligns you with purpose. Inspiration fades. Will remains. There will be days with no motivation. If you still take one step, you strengthen will over emotion. Jung believed most people waste their life waiting for inspiration. Inspiration is wind. Will is direction. Strong-willed people aren't emotionless. They simply don't let feelings control them. Progress often happens in resistance, not excitement. If today you feel uninspired or unsupported, remember this. You don't need motivation to begin. You need one decision. Start small. Consistency will take you further than waiting ever will. Number 7, you don't need anyone to understand you. Everything you seek is within. After all the effort, when no one understands or notices, the final lesson appears. When no one is left to lean on, you must find your own light. Seeking understanding is still seeking validation. No one can fully understand your journey except you. Jung wrote that clarity comes when you look into your own heart. When you stop demanding understanding, inner harmony begins. Fear and courage, pain and healing align. You no longer need approval. Being true to your soul becomes enough. When you accept yourself fully, you stop searching for saviors. You become your own. And then you realize everything you searched for, love, peace, understanding, was always pointing to one place. Coming home to yourself. That is how you rise when no one is by your side. Not through noise, but through awakening. Conclusion: rising alone doesn't mean feeling no pain. It means turning loneliness into guidance, silence into strength, and every fall into growth. When the world goes quiet, you listen within. When no one believes, you hold belief yourself. And from that space, a different kind of power is born. Not the power of proving, but the power of becoming.